This meeting is being recorded.
Center for the Study of Islam, Islam and Democracy, for organizing this webinar to meet Tunisia's friends in the United States, which is a friend of Tunisia. I thank you, and I will talk about the role of the Tunisian parliament in restoring democracy. With this parliament was elected in 2019 through direct, transparent, free elections, and continued to work and adopted a number of important laws, particularly in the social field. However, a coup happened against it on the 25th of July of last year, when a presidential decision to freeze parliament was taken, or it's the dissolution, because it has been blocked by tanks. The assembly has been blocked and all its activities have been stopped, including the museum, which is adjacent to the assembly. It has also been closed, and we have tried since that time to resist, and we continue to resist, and we have succeeded to hold an online plenary session, and we are preparing for another session, which to discuss the current political, economic, and social situation in the country, and we believe that important decisions may come out of that plenary. We interact with events on the political scene which are evolving. At the beginning, there was a kind of shock by Tunisian society vis-à-vis the coup, since the conditions before the 25th of July had great difficulties, economic and social difficulties. Hence, people thought that perhaps the coup may change their lives to the better. But after 8 months, Tunisians are feeling there is more awareness growing that the coup is not a solution, and that the problems of democracy cannot be solved through a coup, but rather through more democracy. Hence, today, after 8 months, it is clear to public opinion in Tunisia and to those observing developments in Tunisia that those who oppose the coup are much greater than those who support it. That there are very few left supporting the coup, except a few opportunists and those who have not realized the danger of this coup. In any case, today, over the last few months, there have been a number of protests and marches, and Parliament itself is part of this movement to restore democracy. Parliament is preparing, as I said, for a plenary session and a number of sessions in conjunction with the movement of the street and Tunisian society. Tunisia is facing difficult economic conditions, which were difficult before the coup and have been exacerbated after the coup, and Tunisia is facing near bankruptcy, which demonstrates that dictatorship is not a solution, neither for the political problems nor the problems of the economy. The problems are getting worse, and there are more calls for the return of democracy. We are moving towards the formation of a front which is getting wider to include the widest possible number of political forces. The conflict is not between another and the president, Qais Said. However, it is between democracy and dictatorship, between holding all powers, concentrating all powers in the hands of the president, which is a project of the president. His problem is not just with parliament, but also with the constitutional court, with the electoral commission, with political parties, with the judicial council, which is the most important institution of democracy. The president has a problem with the fundamental principle of democracy, which is the separation of powers. His project is to gather all powers in his hands, which is dictatorship. Hence, from the first hours, we considered the 25th of July to be a coup, and that the people should realize that. And we are all struggling for the return of democracy. Parliament does not have a problem with the president, but rather with this model of monopolizing all powers in one hand, which is just another label for dictatorship. We are confident in the Tunisian people, that the Tunisian people who brought the Tunisian revolution, the revolution of democracy, and preserved their revolution for 10 years, are still committed to it and will protect it. And Tunisia is eligible to present a democratic model in the Arab world, not only beneficial for Tunisia, but for the whole Arab world, the Muslim world, and the whole world. We believe that the economic problems are mainly caused by dictatorship. And therefore, we support the struggle of unions and social movements and democratic political movements for the struggle for the return of as a route to prosperity and reform, for jobs for young people, and to bring hope. We are optimistic, and we believe that our friends in the United States and in democratic nations, because Tunisia is part of this democratic family, we expect that they will support this nascent democracy, the sole democracy in the Arab world, because this is the right way to confront poverty, unemployment, and terrorism, and all forms of populism and extremism. Thank you, my dear friends, and I look forward to interacting with your questions and comments and benefit from your observations.
أستاذ راشد في الحقيقة مازال عندك تقريبا 5 دقائق
لذلك have 5 minutes. Hence, I would like to ask you one question, which is on everyone's mind. What is the solution in your view? How can Tunisia come out of this crisis? What are the steps that must be taken, and how is there a way out for Tunisia out of this crisis? How do you view the solution? When the train comes out of its track, the solution is to bring it back to the track. Tunisia has left the path of democracy, and it must be placed back on the path of democracy. If there is any obstruction, we must remove those obstructions from the path. Today, is the danger, the greatest danger for Tunisia. Therefore, Tunisia, after the 25th of July, before it was not, but Tunisians enjoyed freedom. Now, there is no freedom, nor has development been achieved. We are struggling alongside others with the broadest possible front to bring Tunisia back to the path of democracy, to remove all obstacles from this path so that Tunisia returns and continues on its path to a national dialogue, because our problems cannot be resolved through violence, but rather through dialogue. And Tunisians have experience in this field. In 2013, there was a crisis in the democratic transition. In 2013, the crisis was resolved through a national dialogue organizations, and Tunisia, as a result, was awarded the Nobel Prize. continues to refuse dialogue, and we continue to call on him to an inclusive, comprehensive national dialogue. Instead, he proposed a calendar, a roadmap that has an electronic consultation that has not received
معتقدين على أن الحوار هو الطريق، الحوار الذي لا يقصي أحدا، والحوار سينتهي لا محالة.
Dialogue is a dialogue that does not exclude anyone, and it will, and everyone, and will lead to the return of democracy. If he does not agree, he doesn't respond to these calls, the Tunisian people will have no choice but to struggle, obviously peacefully. We believe in peaceful struggle through the streets, to exercise all forms of peaceful struggle in order to regain their right to freedom. It has held one plenary session and will hold future sessions. And there is no hope in Tunisia except through the return to democracy and the return so that we can resolve economic problems. Bankruptcy. We need a movement that mobilizes the people and mobilizes Tunisia's friends. Tunisia is now living through extreme isolation internationally because the democratic world continue to call on the president to return to democracy and restore parliament. But until now, there are no indicators showing a positive response. President's dissolution of the High Judicial Council, which is the fundamental guarantee of justice and the rule of law. The president, since his policy of gathering all powers, just as he had dissolved the assembly and a number of constitutional bodies, so that monopolizes all power.